Do you live in the US and want an easy way to eat well and save money this year? Well, our discount might just be the one for you. HelloFresh is the US #1 meal kit service and delivers fast, fresh and affordable food to your door. So why have the cost of takeout or that horrible trip to the grocery store? Just get it delivered to you and have a hassle-free dinner of the highest quality.
So why not check out HelloFresh? Click the link down below for your special discount.
Well, the final international break of the season is over. We had a great time with non-league day. We enjoyed that weekend. But now it is all about the run into the championship season. England's second tier is hotting up, and the battle at the bottom and the top is certainly going to be interesting. Today we'll predict all 12 weekend fixtures from matchday 39. But before we go and do that, let's have a quick recap of what happened before the break. There were 10 games, which was cut to 9 due to the abandonment at Rotherham v Cardiff. Rotherham got a bit lucky there based on their early performance, but just the 5 points for me and one perfect score, and it was one that really upset me in the end. A 1-1 draw between Sunderland and Luton. We'll get to why in a moment, though I'm sure most of you have seen the incident now. But in terms of the rest of you, one person beat me last week, and that was Gordon McInnes. 2 perfect scores, both 1-1 draws. In addition to the Luton game, you also got Reading versus Hull. The Championship's favourite scoreline delivers again, and every perfect score predicted this week in the comments was a Championship's favourite scoreline. So well done to Gordon. Thank you everyone for getting involved as always. Get your predictions in this weekend in the comments too. But for now, let's move on to Friday night football, and it's a big one. It's Burnley versus Sunderland, and with 8 games to go at the top of the table, Burnley are almost there. They are 16 points clear of Borough with a game in hand, and this is a real opportunity for them to bounce back. They've been brilliant, they've been imperious in the league, but against Manchester City, we saw a flavour of what might be to come next year for them. A 6-0 defeat in the FA Cup in a game they started pretty well in fact, but just too good were Manchester City. Erling Haaland's hat-trick, of course, a little bit of a factor in deciding that game. I'm not sure Sunderland have got someone quite as potent, but I tell you what, they've got someone who's masterful at conning the referee into a penalty, because he's a great player and I've praised him a lot this season on this channel. But Amad Diallo, my word, it was a very soft penalty. You could argue it was a little bit of a dive, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. A very decent game to be fair, and probably a fair result on the reflection of the game. But when it's done like that late on, you've always got to worry. We do know though that Sunderland are far better on the road than at home. They are the 5th best team away from home in the Championship. They did win away at Norwich in their last away game in the league. But they've had a couple of disappointing ones prior to that, and they don't have that ruthless streak that Burnley have got. The main worry for me is that Sunderland have been shipping goals for fun. I know they won that game at Norwich, but aside from that, they let in 5 against Stoke, 2 in 3 of their other 4 games, and the 1 against Luton. I do worry that they're going to be on the wrong end of this. I think it'll be a close game. I've got a feeling it might be a thriller, you know. I'm going to go for Burnley to nick it, and I'm going to start as I mean to go on. Let's have a weekend of bonkers Championship football. There were surprise results in the last one. This one's going to be big. 3-2 to Burnley. They'll edge closer to the title. Let's move on to Saturday then, and the first game is one of 2 early kickoffs, and it's the one I'll be attending. The M1 derby between Luton Town and Watford. It's a big game as well. 9 points separate the teams. Rob Edwards manages against the club he started the season at that sacked him. He didn't even make it to the first derby of the season in October. And it is a really big game. Watford have probably got to get a result to stay in the playoff mix. Luton with a win virtually secure their playoff place at this stage of the season. They're in great form, they're 6 unbeaten. And although they were disappointed with the manner of the late penalty against Sunderland, it was another solid performance on the road. And again, although not scoring too freely, they're looking very good at the back. We have got to remember though that Watford won 4-0 in a reverse fixture. They didn't score for a couple of games, but it looked like Wilder had turned the corner for them with a 3-0 win against Birmingham. But the same old issues cropped up at home to Wigan. It's a big issue really, isn't it? Under any manager, the same problems. Lots of shots very rarely hitting a target, but Keenan Davis back is a big boost for them. Back on the score sheet, back in form. I really don't know what to predict for this one. There is a lot of me that's thinking it's going to be decided by discipline and red cards, etc. But I'm going to sit on the fence again. I'm not going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline. I might end up regretting that. I'm going to go for 2-2. I am starting with thrillers galore. And Sky will be wishing they didn't put this one on the red button. The reason they have is because the other early kickoff is a Lancashire derby. Preston North End versus Blackpool. Preston floating in mid-table with a win. They move on to 56. You could say they'll be edging towards playoff contention. But Blackpool have got to find a way. A big 6-1 win at home to QPR. They fooled us all, didn't they? They lost 4-1 at home to Coventry at the weekend before the internationals. And they only had one shot on target. Coventry were ruthless. They gave up so many good chances though. And Blackpool, they've got to be concerned defensively. A really poor effort from them. Onto 58 conceded now, just one off the worst record in the league. And Preston weren't much better, albeit against a very good side. They lost 4-0 at Middlesbrough to send their away form and my prediction crashing back down to earth. But prior to that, they'd let in 1 goal in 4 games. They'd won 2, they'd drawn 2. And I think they'll have enough here. I know Preston are awful at home. Second worst record in the league. Blackpool, not great away from home, just 3 wins all season. Letting 32 goals in the 19 away games as well. Oh, but it means so much more to them. And they have done all right in the derbies before. Do I go for Blackpool to nick it against the odds? No, I'm going to go for 1-0 to Preston. I know they haven't turned up in this derby plenty of times, but I think they're going to want to be on top of their game. I'm going for 1-0 Preston. Blackpool, I know they scored 6 against QPR, but generally they ain't got much of a goal threat. Let's move on to the rest of the games, which are all 3 p.m. kickoffs on Saturday, and we start with Birmingham City versus Blackburn Rovers. Birmingham got a crucial 1-0 win away at QPR, just pushing them away from that relegation mix. 9 points away now, they should be safe. And Blackburn lost 3-2 in the FA Cup quarter-final. A last-ditch screamer put them out of the FA Cup. They were pretty good in that game, to be fair. It was a good game of football to watch, a brilliant cup tie. But now they can focus on the league. They're in those playoff places, but they need to stay there. And away from home this season, they've been a bit of a mixed bag of Blackburn. Interestingly, they're one of only 5 sides to lose 10 or more games away from home this season. So they're not the best on the road, but they very rarely draw and do nick the odd win. Birmingham at home are a bit of a mess to predict as well. You've got a team that have only won 6 home games against a team that have only won the same on the road. And I really don't know where to go with it. Birmingham were good at home last time to Rotherham, but when they've played sides near the other end of the table, like Luton prior to that, they have generally struggled to find a goal. I'm going to go for Blackburn to nick it. I know they've started conceding goals recently, which is a little bit of a worry, but they don't draw many as we know. So I'm going to go for Blackburn to nick it by 2-1. Moving on, we've got Bristol City versus Reading. This one's quite tricky to predict because Bristol City, yes, won their last home game against Blackpool, but back-to-back defeats against Luton and Swansea, a few fans starting to turn again on the team, and Reading absolutely atrocious on the road. 11 points, the worst record in the league, lost 14 of their 19, and even at home they've struggled recently. Nicked a draw against Hull City. To be fair to them, it was a pretty even game. They deserved to nick something out of it, but Hull had a couple of great chances to win that one. It stopped to rot of 4 defeats for them, and of course there's this cloud hanging over them about a possible points deduction. At the moment they're 9 points clear, at the moment they're safe in 18th, but after their start to the season, there is no doubt things are starting to dwindle. I can't back them to get a result away from home, even though Bristol City are dropping off again. I think they'll do enough to win this one. I think they've got enough of an attacking threat, and I'm going to go by 2-0. I think Bristol City get back in form here. On to the Welsh derby next, which is Cardiff City versus Swansea City. Cardiff picked up a draw against West Brom in their last league game, but didn't play in the final weekend before the break, and Swansea got a very needed victory. 2-0 against Bristol City on the Sunday, and it was a good performance to be fair. Bristol City didn't offer a lot and obviously have been hit by injuries and whatever else, but Swansea have been in awful form and they took advantage. They get themselves again just clear enough that they don't have to worry about that bottom 3, and it was so needed after their recent form. It's another one of those games, a bit like the ones we mentioned earlier, where it's massive for Cardiff. They're 4 points clear of the relegation zone. And with the disappointment of that game being abandoned when they were dominant, they were 1-0 up against the Millers, I think they're going to be really frustrated if they can't get a result here. At home to Swansea, they should be motivated. But we've all remembered Swansea have had some cracking wins here in recent years. We all remember the chaos last season. Do I go for them to crumble again? Do you know what? I know Swansea don't win often, and this is a ridiculous prediction. I'm going to go for Swansea to get it. I'm going to go for a repeat of their scoreline against Bristol City, which means, yes, I am predicting back-to-back Swansea clean sheets. I'm an idiot, I know. Cardiff are going to fall to defeat. They're going to make the relegation battle interesting. I'm going for 2-0 to Swansea City in the Battle of Wales. Next up, we go to the CBS for Coventry City versus Stoke City. Coventry, of course, had back-to-back draws before that 4-1 thumping of Blackpool before the break. Stoke with a 0-0 draw against Norwich. Back-to-back draws against good playoff contenders after a couple of great wins. It's been a good month so far for Stoke, hasn't it? For Coventry, much the same. A couple of big wins and a couple of frustrating draws. And you just wonder if they can get in that playoff mix. Just 3 points behind, despite those drop points in disappointing games. And Stoke, although they're a bit too far away, they've got themselves well clear from that relegation battle now. They are a pretty good side on the road, Stoke. 7 wins and a top 8 record on the road in the Championship. But Coventry at home are always good. It's all about ruthlessness. When they're in form, when they're firing, they're very hard to stop. I'm going to go for them to nick this game. I don't think it's going to be a thriller, but I'm going to trust them to get over the line. I'm going to go for Coventry 2, Stoke City 1. This game could go either way. Let's move on to a huge game. Neil Warnock with his current club hosting his former club. And my word, this is crucial at both ends. It is Huddersfield Town versus Middlesbrough. Both sides got crucial wins before the international break. Huddersfield with a coupon buster, a 1-0 win away at Millwall. Nobody, probably not even Huddersfield, saw that coming. They had less than 30% of the ball. They had about a quarter of the amount of shots. They had 2 shots on target, but Danny Ward took one and they gritted out a 1-0 win. It's so important at this stage. And now they look the most likely of the bottom 3 to get out. This isn't probably the game they want next because it's one where they're likely to come back down to earth. But 4 points in that week against Norwich and Millwall is a stunning effort. For Middlesbrough, Preston, one of the best away sides in the league, but they couldn't do anything about them. After the disappointment of those drop points against Stoke, back in style with a 4-0 win. And now just 3 points behind Sheffield United with the extra game played and increased the gap to Luton back to 3 points as well, which is crucial looking down. For Middlesbrough, they're almost assured of the playoffs now. For Huddersfield, do you know what? They're just a bit too weak at the back. And I know that Warnock has tried to make them more defensively solid in recent weeks. They've only let in 2 goals in their last 4 games after that Coventry debacle. But Borough will open them up. I don't think it's a game Warnock will target for 3 points. I don't think he's going to be able to get them in this one. And I know they shot the odds away at Millwall. I'm going for Borough to win big. I'm tempted to go more, but I'll play safe. I'm going to go for 3-0 to the visitors. We move into the final third with another side who need some points near the bottom. It is Rotherham United heading away to Hull City. Hull drew 1-1 against Reading. They should have won the game. They had a couple of glorious chances. But in the end, it's not a bad point. Again, after the Burnley result, important to pick up something. And they're comfortable in mid-table, which given their start to the season is a good outcome. For Rotherham, they got lucky. Back-to-back defeats, and then at the weekend, 1-0 down, really struggling against Cardiff. The heavens opened at half-time, and maybe that's the moment they need to change their fortunes. 2 weeks off to get back on the training ground. They're only 4 points clear of the relegation zone. They've got a game in hand now because of that, of course. And the Cardiff game gets to wait a bit further down the line. Maybe there won't be as much pressure on it when they get to it. We'll probably know a bit more after this weekend. It's very hard to predict them to win away from home. They've only won 2 games away all season, less than anybody else. They've managed to grind out quite a few draws. Hull City have been draw specialists, but not at home. I think Hull might nick it, you know. Rotherham starting to look like a side that might struggle towards the end. And I think it's going to be a photo finish. So I'm backing Liam Rossini to nick it. I don't think it's going to be a great game. I'm going to go for Hull City to win it. And I'm going for a boring game at last. Just 1-0. 3 to go, and we head back to the top of the table as Norwich City host Sheffield United. United, of course, got that brilliant late winner in the FA Cup quarter-final. They're off to Wembley after their 3-2 win against Blackburn. And that ended a good week after bouncing back from the Luton defeat with a big win at Sunderland. For Norwich, frustration. A draw away at Huddersfield, a draw away at Stoke. Just 2 points from a week where they were probably targeting 6 or 7 points. And it leaves them outside the playoffs despite Millwall's defeat. They had a real opportunity to break in. For this game, I don't know what to predict because Norwich have generally done pretty well against the good sides this year, since David Wagner's come in particular. Big win away at Millwall a few weeks ago. For Sheffield United, they're starting to look better again, and away from home, they've probably been better than at Bramall Lane in recent weeks. If Sheffield United win this, they're favourites for the top two. It's one of their hardest fixtures in this run-in. I'm not sure if they do it. They're one of only 3 sides to win 10 games on the road with Luton and Burnley. Norwich at home have been disappointing at times this year. I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going for a Championship's favourite scoreline. Not done it enough at all this weekend. 1-1 in the big game at the top. Well, if the last one was big at the top, this is huge in the race for the playoffs. It's 9th v 6th. It's West Brom v Millwall. And West Brom and Millwall will be disappointed with the last result. Millwall, as we mentioned earlier, defeat at home to Huddersfield, a result nobody saw coming. West Brom, disappointment away at Cardiff. That was the midweek game, of course. Really frustrating for them. So both off the back of an annoying game after pretty good form prior to that. They'd both won back-to-back games beforehand. And they're going to be looking to bounce back. But we know Millwall aren't quite as good away from home. West Brom have got a top 6 record at home. They're only 5 points off the playoffs with a game in hand. If they can get a win in this one, they're probably in prime position to get in that top 6. If Millwall win it, of course it strengthens their position and makes the gap 8 points between the two of them. I know the Millwall result is a standout outlier, but you've got to look at the stats of that game and think 9 times out of 10, they get at least a point, probably win it. For West Brom, it's been a little bit closer in recent weeks. A couple of 1-0s and a 1-1, 2-0 defeat prior to that in a game they dominated at Hull. They're starting to struggle to put the ball in the net. Daryl DK getting a few, but there's not many goals about at the moment. So this game could well be low scoring as well. I'm going to go for West Brom to nick it. 1-0 at the Hawthorns. The Baggies are going to get back in that mix. And the final game has got plenty of importance too. It's a huge one at the bottom of the table. Wigan Athletic, the basement side, host QPR, who are in free fall. A 6-1 defeat at Blackpool, followed up by a 1-0 home defeat to Birmingham. And QPR are right back in trouble. Do not rule them out for relegation yet. Wigan Athletic, do you know what? Fair play to Sean Maloney. We've had the chaos of the unpaid wages again. What a difference a year makes. And it looks like, well, we were there a year ago when Wigan were winning a League One title. And I feel that's what they're going to be chasing next year. If they don't win this game against a side with no confidence, that is in absolute freefall, they're gone, aren't they? They're already 8 points from safety. They got great draws against Watford and Coventry. He's got his players battling despite not being paid at the time. It has all now been resolved for this month, but we all know there's probably more problems down the line. Lots of weird departures off the pitch there with people popular with players. Certain people from the boardroom going that were probably the most communicative with fans. It's a real worry at Wigan, off the pitch more so than on it. And against QPR, it is the battle of teams that are way out of form. QPR got that win against Watford, but have been dismal at the back aside from it. Wigan have picked up a few 1-1 draws, but other than that, it's been defeats against decent teams. The worst home record in the league against the second worst defensive record on the road. I don't think there's going to be many goals in it despite that. I'm going to sit on the fence again at the end. I have no idea what to predict in this game. I left it blank when I was doing my research because I didn't really know what score to go for. And if you're ever in doubt in a championship, you go for the favourite scoreline. 1-1 to finish off. We've got to do it in style. Let's have a quick recap of what we've predicted this weekend then. It is a pretty interesting and decisive match day at both ends of the table. For me, lots of high-scoring games at the start. Burnley in a thriller on Friday night. Luton Watford, a goal-scoring draw of 2 apiece. And going further down, well, there's going to be some sides in trouble if I get this right, aren't there? We've got Rotherham to lose, we've got Cardiff to lose, and they are not going to get any further away from that relegation zone. It's going to be whether the bottom 3 can push themselves any closer. But those are just my predictions. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comment section down there and give us your predictions for matchday 39. If you did enjoy the episode, please do put a thumbs up on it. We've got a big Easter weekend to come, so make sure you turn that notification bell on to make sure you don't miss anything. We'll be back on Wednesday with predictions for Good Friday, and then on Saturday for predictions for Easter Monday, and then the following Wednesday or Thursday as well. There is an awful lot to get through, but I'll see you back here on Wednesday for the next lot as the Easter fixtures come thick and fast.